For the text adventure games, the ones I tried out were relatively low on the crash style bug, at least that I can remember. I think that's probably due to they had the language processor and engine down pretty well. They'd shipped a couple of games underneath this engine for a while, and so I don't remember a whole lot of crashes. I'm sure there was a couple, and plus I tested this on a couple different platforms. Their engine ran on Apple IIs and IBMs and Commodores and things like that, and so I don't remember a whole lot of the horrible crash kind of bug. Type in a command, start seeing machine language, or your screen goes corrupt or anything like that. I do remember a couple of the, as you mentioned, go into a room, something disappears, or, more likely, the more kind of nastier bug to actually track down, the one that probably is the more painful one for a QA person is I screwed up something way back early in the game and now I can't finish. What happened to that object? I destroyed it. I hit it with a hammer, I stabbed it with the sword, it's dead, and I need this now, 3 hours later, somewhere else in the game, and I don't have this anymore. File a bug that says, I was able to destroy a critical game object. Make it so I can't do that. Right? One of my favorite bugs that I remember fairly vividly was around the typical drink bottle kind of thing. Somewhere in the Deadly Summer game, there's a kitchen table, and there's a bottle of water somewhere in the kitchen or on the table or something like that. And testing out the slightly improved English language parsing of Better Than Zork. Most other games you would typically say something like drink bottle, and that was an oversimplification, which would be understood to mean drink the water out of the bottle, and now you have an empty bottle, and you've drunk the water, and you've shrunk, or you died, or you feel refreshed, or something. In the Better Than Zork engine for the Deadly Summer game, when I tried it, I did drink bottle rather than drink water from bottle, drink water in bottle. And it said you drank the bottle, but now the bottle's gone. I actually drank the bottle. So I thought to myself, that seems wrong. And I started to file a bug on that. And I said, well, let me see what else I can drink. Drink table. I actually drank the table. Proceeded to drink a bunch of items in the room. I think I drank a chair, and I was able to drink some stuff out of my inventory. Finally, I said, drink me. And then I find myself in this empty room, and there's all my stuff. I had drunk myself, and there's where we were storing all the objects. So, bit of a bug. They went and limited what the drink command we could do at that point. But there's an example of a state bug, a parsing bug, something that not a programming bug in the traditional sense. You've got to limit the plot and what you can do with your items. Things like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I don't think I finished. Did get a Babelfish in my ear, but don't think I finished that one. I did finish Enchanter. I remember that one in particular. And that may have been afterwards. I have to go back and look. But I can't remember playing a whole lot after that. That's not true. I think I did pick up some of the Zork sequels and play those guys a little bit. So pretty sure that Zork 2 and 3 and those guys were significantly after that time period, and I'm pretty sure I played those. But not a whole lot. I think that's a combination of probably more to do with it just became a little bit of a dying market, even that early, compared to a lot of other games. I mean, certainly, your 8-bit computer graphics, not fantastic, but there was definitely kind of a different camp there with the text adventure games. And of course, I've had this experience with some stuff that I've tested where after you watch the sausage being made, you definitely don't want to, go out and have a big plate of, bratwurst or something like that necessarily. And so it's definitely easy to get burned out in a particular game. Not a big problem with Pete Rose Spinnet Fever. Couldn't have stood it from day one anyway. But some of the other games, certainly, once you've gone through them, you're not going to go play them again. And I have to admit to probably a certain amount of frustration with the text adventures. This is back in the BBS days, and I ran one, and I can certainly remember, in some cases, tracking down a walkthrough to get through certain things. So when I say I got the Babelfish in my ear, I'm not sure that I did that on my own. I probably went and got a walkthrough for that one. So I can sometimes be a little impatient with not being willing to spend the 2-3 hours to find the solution on my own before I actually go and track down a hint. would I ever want to put my kids in front of a text adventure? Well, I probably would like to, but would they play it? Thinking probably not. I think what happened there is that the graphical stuff, which has its own built-in appeal, caught up with the ability to tell a story. You got 64K and you've got graphics, you have very little room to tell a story. You don't have much more room than it takes to do, a level and then have level 2 just be the same one faster. It used to be an either or thing. So if you look at any of the modern games, the ones that tend to do a lot better are ones with a story to them, a storyline that people can appreciate. My favorite example is the Half-Life games. Tons of first-person shooter games out there in the market. Why is Half-Life 2 dominating that arena? I think it's because they've got a decent story to it. And really, that's kind of the text adventure is pure story. It's pure essence. It's an interactive book. And it makes me wonder if there's any market left for those. So for example, could you get kids interested in text adventures by sending up an instant message portal or something like that? Makes me wonder. But the important part about a text adventure was always the story. So if you have some games where you've got, frankly, programmers doing the storyline and they don't succeed, even though it's got a good engine, I think that probably had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
A little all over the board there, but
That's fine with me.
So I worked for Synapse starting when I was about 15, which created some interesting work problems because I had to get permission with school, and that's the first year when you can technically legally work. And I had to make sure that they had employment insurance and all that kind of thing. So I was 15 years old, and the way it happened was my mom worked at a restaurant. She would do hostessing. She ran the banquets there. She did a little bookkeeping, and one night at the bar, she ran into a guy. They got to talking. He said he worked for this game company, and she said, "Oh, you should meet my son." And we did, and they ended up hiring me as a game tester. I had experience assembling these machines. I was the kid who would maintain the computer labs at school. Could build a box, put all the pieces together, that kind of thing. And had played a lot of games where I didn't have the manuals. So the way it worked for me is, depending where it's in the process, I played a couple of the Synapse games that were more or less about to ship or had shipped to kind of get a feel for it. So they had shipped a couple of ones. I think the big one that they were known for was Mindwheel. And I was working on a couple that turned out never actually got shipped, from what I can tell. Deadly Summer and Ronin. So the deal would be you come in for the day, you're assigned usually a game or something for the day, hand you the day's floppy that they had built, and you try it out. Now the game usually, for the ones I play, they tended to have them so that they wrote the beginning parts of the game first, and so you actually have something to try out while they're off finishing the story and the engine and figuring out the plot and all that kind of thing. So I got to play the beginning of these two games quite a bit. And of course, as is the bane of any of these kind of games, you still have it nowadays with patches sometimes, is that all your save games are completely useless by the time you get another build. The other kids, compared to some of the adults who are running the company and things like that, were college-age kids, so 18, 19 or older. So very much got treated as a kid. A little bit of talking down to, a little bit of teasing, and yet I'm there doing the same job as them. So I would be try to be. So I got a little bit of treatment that was different in terms of spelling out very carefully what some of the procedures were. Here's how you write out a good bug. Don't bother the programmers. Don't be hanging around out back all day long where the developers were. And then one of the other things I would run into a lot, it's not so much, a little bit with the treatment, is that I'd get stuck somewhere in the plot in the game, and not usually a bug, but you don't know when you're playtesting. Could be a bug in the game, and you don't know if it's I haven't figured out the trick, I haven't figured out the puzzle, or the game's broken at this point in the game. So typically I would have to, bang on it for a little bit on my own, and then I have to go ask one of the other people, someone who's probably played the game before, what do I do at this point in the game? And I would get a variety of responses from, teasing down to kind of hints and suggestions or sometimes encouragement to go look in a particular area or to just keep banging on it for a while. This was both a combination of testing the thing out, as well as this is a way that they use to see how hard is this plot element, how hard is this puzzle. Are we going to frustrate people by making them spend 2 hours trying to figure out that they have to move the brick to find the item that you need to pull it out, and then you can open the door, and is this just something that's arbitrarily hard that's no fun? So I in that respect I represented the young teenage demographic in terms of clever kid, uses computers a lot. How long does it take him to figure out this trick here? So the sense that I got with the text adventures in particular was that their hook, their thing that was better was the engine. They had a better parser, essentially. They had a little bit better natural language processing, although that's a bit of a stretch to use that term. They were targeting the previous generation, which was the verb noun, get lamp, and they would be able to do something a little more complicated than that. They would say, get something from something. You could string together a series of actions. Go east and then open the door. And so that was how they were going to differentiate themselves. They'd had one game where they'd had a relatively big name writer on. And then if you go back and look at some of these other games, I'm not sure what changed there, whether or not they felt that they had the engine down and could expand on it and use it now, but you had the programmers writing some of the plots for some of the games that I ended up playing, the ones that didn't actually ship. But definitely the point of pride there, the difference was the engine, and they wanted some experience with that. And I think when they talked to me originally, when they was interviewing, or when they were talking about putting me on the project, they wanted to know had I played these games before. Enchanter from Infocom, I think prior to this or around that time. So I was familiar with functionality and enjoyed them and could get through them and things like that. And of course, if you go back and look at what Synapse named their engine, BTZ, better than Zork, it was fairly clear that they were targeting Infocom as the big player in that market. I think they had planned a total of 5 titles before they ended up getting acquired by Broderbund, and Broderbund ended up killing the other titles except for the ones that had already shipped, which they continued to distribute but didn't really widely promote. Unfortunately, it's not real clear exactly how finished they were. As a game tester for a lot of these companies, through my teenage years, I worked for a number of game companies. I worked for Synapse, 15 and 16. I worked briefly at Broderbund, 17 and 18. I worked for Mediagenic, aka Activision and Infocom, when I was 18, 19. And it was only the Mediagenic one that it was on one project the entire time, which, horribly was Pete Rose Pennant Fever, a baseball game. I can't stand sports. 2 months, 8 hours a day, testing on that one. A lot of fun. But the other ones, the job very much was you go into the game tester bay. You're one of the quats, the quality assurance testers, and you go up to the pit boss, and your guy says you're working on this today. If you were lucky, it was something fun, entertaining that you enjoyed. If you weren't so lucky, you get a Mavis Beacon teaches typing, or you get to do 8 hours of print shop print card test matrix. Big printout this thick of the different combinations of printers and cards and machines they would run on. So same thing at Synapse. I would go in and there'd be different games for the day. There were some action games that they did. In fact, they were better known for their action games. They had an experimental game, which I don't think even ended up with a name or shipped, for the Amiga. We had a prototype Amiga, which would eventually later become a Model 1000 prototype, which is called the Amiga at the time. And it was in a great big sheet metal black, experimenter's case with a floppy just kind of screwed into the front, at least for the ones that I tried out. But I got to play the beginnings quite a bit, and I still have some interesting, vivid memories from picture in my brain of what the room looks like, even though it was only done in text. I don't think there's been a good game company, yet, at least not yet. unfortunately, that its ending is they get acquired by some larger company, and the good stuff stops happening. Synapse got acquired by Broderbund, as I'd mentioned, and they got the programmers, they got distribution rights for a few things. I can't think of any games that they actually continued on as a series or anything like that. You look at like Sierra Online, used to be my favorite game company, and they got acquired, I don't know, several times in a row, and I'm not sure what even exists there anymore, or who owns them. Some media company I don't even know the name of. My absolute favorite games of all time, of course, were the Ultimate games, Richard Garriott. He doesn't, I literally played those games since I was 12, 1 through 10 over a 20-year span, and he doesn't own the rights to those anymore. And EA, I believe the ones who do, they don't have any interest in continuing it. So there's an entire story arc that is, continued over 20 years that I can't play anymore. There's the term now I hear bandied about, and I think it's a JWZ-ism, is the brand necrophilia. Right? Mm-hmm. My kids love it. I bought the $20 Commodore 64 joystick, which part of the Commodore brand. I think they've got Commodore MP3 players now. They're coming out with an Amiga branded something. All, nothing to do with the original products, nothing to do with the designers or compatibility or the same, line of family and all like that. They're just reusing the brand.